14 confirmed dead, 10 died inside the theater, 40 passed away at local hospitals, and of the 50 injured, according to the local authorities out there in Aurora, many of those injuries are severe. So one gunman just inflicting a lot of depravity out there in Aurora, Colorado.
Born on December 13th, 1987, in San Diego, California, James Egan Holmes became known throughout the United States on July the 20th, 2012, when he opened fire on a theatre filled with innocent civilians. After seeing Batman: The Dark Knight prior, Holmes claims he was inspired by the Joker to wreak havoc on the audience of the latest Batman film on its opening night. Wearing a gas mask and body armour, his last words before opening fire were, "I am the Joker."
Violent content.
Filmmakers are obviously a product of the society that they grow up in. You could argue that filmmakers, like storytellers have done before film, have taken events in their world and reflected them through the prism of their medium. In terms of shaping society, I think that would be quite a big thing to claim to film.
The British Board of Film Censors is a non-governmental organisation funded by the film industry and responsible for the national classification and censorship of films within the United Kingdom. Not only do they decide what age rating a film should receive, but they also choose whether or not a film should be banned altogether. But how do the younger generations feel about the censorship of popular films of today? Are some films out there acceptable to watch at all, regardless of age? And are people influenced by these films?
Personally, I don't think violent films can cause somebody to commit a crime. If you're going to commit a crime, you're going to commit a crime. The only thing I would say on that matter is, if you're going to commit a crime and you've seen the film, but you've got the right mindset to be able to actually commit that crime, it might become more likely. But if you haven't got the mindset, then probably not, no.
I think it depends on the age of the person, really, and the mentality of them. I think in the olden days, sort of back 90s time, I think it probably would have influenced people, but now people have become sort of desensitized to it, and I don't think they would as much now as they used to.
Do you agree that Dark Knight should be a 12A?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, no, I think it's quite accurate, actually.
Yeah, I think the rating of Dark Knight was pretty accurate. I mean, there are one or two moments I can't think of off the top of my head that you might think, ooh, actually, was that in a 12? But you then think about, actually, a 12A is with parental consent and the parent has to be there watching it with them. So really, it's the parents' choice, and if they've let their children see that, then it must be fine for that child to see it, and it's there for a reason.
Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's beer.
So I think film shaping society would be probably to give film too much credit. I mean, if you think back in the past, how many people watched film, how frequently, probably once a week at the cinema. until relatively modern times, that people could watch 10 films every day if they wanted to on video on demand or on YouTube or whatever. I don't think it was a big factor in anybody's lives, really. It was just one of the many, many things that happened. So in terms of shaping society, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do. I think it's, I think going back to what I said before about watching a film that you're not quite old enough for, I think they've kind of looked at it and said a lot of people will probably end up watching this regardless, and it's on that border where you've kind of got something that's gives a little bit of an impact on the viewer, but not so much that it could do something to them.
James Holmes was 19 years of age when The Dark Knight was released in cinemas. He claims that the villain from this film inspired him to commit one of the worst massacres America has seen in recent years.
14 confirmed dead, 10 died inside the theater, 40 passed away at local hospitals, and of the 50 injured, according to the local authorities out there in Aurora, many of those injuries are severe. So one gunman just inflicting a lot of depravity out there in Aurora, Colorado.
Yeah, I was sitting in the second row.
So first we were just watching the movie, then out of nowhere, from the front screen, like on the right side of the theater, like on the exit, the door opens up.
He was probably maybe 4 or 5 feet away from me. I was the first person he would have seen when he came in the door. And at first we all thought, you know, that it was just part of the show.
We thought it was part of the movie, you know, to pump everyone up for the new Batman movie.
He took this can full of gas, like tear gas or something, and he took off the tab and he threw it in the crowd. And it exploded and all this gas went everywhere.
And then I saw plumes of smoke.
And then all of a sudden he takes his gun, and it was a rifle, and he shot it in the air.
We hear like 2 big, loud bam, bam.
It took me a second to realize what was actually going on. And as people were running away, I hit the ground.
I just dived forward and into the ground.
Immediately just jumped down, and I'm just on the bottom, like hiding from like underneath the chairs. And this guy just starts shooting everywhere, and is shooting like crazy directions, like in front of people, like from all the way up high. And I just grabbed my sister, and we're like hiding.
So he definitely did dye his hair bright red, like the character, the Joker. And police did have an early report that he said, "I am the Joker."
We are looking at James Holmes still with the strange spectral red hair.
But when you look at his face, wow. I mean, at times expressionless, at times, as you put it,
orange color or red, and apparently said near the time of his arrest, either as he was leaving the theater or as he was waiting for the police, "I am the Joker." Now, some people have speculated that that speaks to possible motive. Maybe he was acting out some kind of diabolical fantasy. And maybe he viewed himself as an arch evil enemy of Batman.
Do you think watching violent films can cause someone to commit a crime?
No. I believe that it can influence someone that's already disturbed enough to do that, but it's been proven that the only way to be that kind of person is through constant neglection and lack of affection.
I can understand that how you can make the link, but personally I think you control what you do, and if you want to commit a crime, you've got to commit a crime regardless of what you've been watching.
Well, I can certainly gain influence from it, but that was never the intention of the film. I think it's down to the person's behaviour beforehand and afterwards.
In the case of James Holmes, a film has seemingly affected the actions of one person. But are there any cases of films that have had a mass influence?
I think Project X could be classified as a 15. There are bad bits in it, but I don't think it's as bad as it comes across.
call them Project X parties. We've been reporting on these wild teen blowouts for months.
Story of how life imitates Hollywood with disastrous results. It's a wildly popular movie about an out-of-control teen party full of boozing, drugs, and big-ticket destruction. The movie characters get away with just a hangover, but for real-life teens copying these parties this spring break, the consequences are far more serious.
All we gotta say is the police. I think we should make it like the Project X party and throw torches and
Like a flash mob, the party crowd descends on the new location. Teens rushing into every room. Hundreds more out on the street. Finally, police show up here too. Kids clear out of the house and join the mob outside.
I agree that Project X should be an 18 because Project X is it's all based on drinking, and obviously you can't drink until you're 18, so I think maybe if someone was under 18 and they wanted to watch the film, if they watched it and they thought, oh, I want to go out and buy a load of alcohol and throw a massive party, then obviously that would be breaking the law because they're under 18.
Yeah, I agree with that one because it is a party kind of film. So,
what do you think of the fact that it's an American film, so American drinking age?
Yeah. Well, the fact that it's American film, I think maybe possibly it should be a 21 there because the drinking age is 21.
Though there are some films' age ratings, like Project X, that many people cannot decide on, others are not questioned at all. Included in this is the horror movie franchise Saw.
You'd have to be quite unaware of Saw to say that it wasn't an 18.
There is only one key to open the device. It's in the stomach of your dead cellmate. Look around, Amanda. Know that I'm not lying. You better hurry up. Live or die. Make your choice.
Yeah, no questions asked. With Saw being an 18 and such a gruesome and violent film, and in some places, if not understood correctly, the violence could be very misplaced.
Yeah, I agree with Saw being an 18. It's so gory, and I wouldn't think any children would watch it, or even 15-year-olds.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's absolutely no kind of hesitance with that.
Because there's loads of very graphic nature to all the violence.
The Saw films should definitely be 18 because they're really quite shocking and gruesome. If maybe like a child of 11 or 12 saw that, I think it might give them nightmares.
It was gruesome and it was very violent and should only be seen for people over the age of 18, I believe.
The oldest film rating on a film? I think maybe an 18, because you're an adult at 18.
In society, when you're 18, you are viewed as a young adult.
For the oldest rating, I think that's fine because that's adult, and at adult you should be allowed to just do whatever.
I mean, why shouldn't you, if you can do everything else in like the United Kingdom when you're 18, why shouldn't you be able to watch other films when you're 18?
Obviously, in British society, you become an adult at 18 with all the rights and responsibilities of adulthood. So that's something that the law decides. And when you look at the Human Rights Act of 1998, basically the rights of adults to enjoy film and filmmakers to make film for adults, there are very few restrictions placed on that, and that's what the public wants.
I wouldn't say necessarily that when you hit 18, I think across the board, it wouldn't be appropriate for everyone, no, because people do mature and grow at a different rate.
I mean, a lot of people say I'm mature enough to watch this film, and I think in some respect that is quite true because people do mature a lot faster, a lot less than other people.
Of course, everyone matures at a different rate. Some teenagers at 15 and 16 are probably going to be more mature than a lot of adults will ever be, and vice versa. So whether all 18-year-olds are able to deal with the content of films, again, this is a psychological question.
Obviously, girls mature faster than boys, but obviously you can't have a different top age rating for genders.
Maybe there should be like, not necessarily a 21, but like an 18 something.
We do get asked this from time to time, like why don't we have a 21 or 25 or whatever. you may be interested to know that the X certificate, which was the highest category before the 18 was introduced, started off life as being a 16. So the highest category for adults was 16. And in the 1980s it changed to the X, you had to be 18. And it's remained at 18 ever since.
Actually, no, I would say from 15 onwards, there needs to be more leniency with teenagers and what they see in films.
I think the oldest age rating should be 15 because people aren't as affected by the issues that they see nowadays.
The films made today are, in many ways, indisputably more explicit than ever before. Films such as The Dark Knight contain many scenes of violence and mature subjects that, by law, are able to be viewed by 12-year-olds. And others, like Project X, glorify an anarchist partying ideology presented to millions of 18-year-olds across the world. It is clear that no one can fully agree on an ideal censorship rating system. Should we raise the highest age to 21, or reduce it to 15? Is gender or intelligence a factor, or should we just ban more films altogether? Do we truly believe that the younger generations cannot be influenced by the films of today?